A diary, lost to time but never forgotten, has resurfaced, and with it, a kingdom's deepest truth. For decades, a silent voice waited patiently for its story to be told. Hidden behind walls that have witnessed centuries, a secret emerged that could rewrite history. In 2024, while Kensington Palace underwent routine renovations, Prince William stumbled upon a part of his childhood he never knew existed. Behind a sealed door in a forgotten corner of the palace was a room untouched for nearly 3 decades. Dust-covered furniture, faded fabrics, and the soft scent of aged paper filled the air. Among it all sat a mahogany writing desk, his mother's. Inside, hidden within a concealed compartment, was a leather-bound diary dated 1996. It belonged to Princess Diana. What began as simple curiosity quickly turned into something much heavier. This wasn't just a diary. It was a confessional, a chronicle of pain, love, betrayal, and warning. Every page was filled with raw emotion and intimate truths that no one had ever heard before. Her words, written in delicate ink, carried the weight of a woman who had been silenced too long. William turned each page slowly, reading his mother's voice as if she were sitting beside him, speaking softly, honestly, and sometimes desperately. The deeper he read, the more he realized that Diana had not only documented her private feelings, but had left behind a blueprint of resistance, sorrow, and ultimately, hope. She wrote about her marriage to Prince Charles, not with hatred, but heartbreak. Diana spoke of loving him deeply despite knowing she would never be enough in the eyes of the crown. The palace, she said, was not a home but a prison. A beautiful one, yes, but still a place where love suffocated under the weight of duty. Her loneliness seeped through every line. Diana confessed to crying herself to sleep, hiding her pain from the public and her children. And her greatest fear was that William and Harry would be shaped into something they were not. She worried the institution would mold them into hollow men, presentable, composed, and entirely detached from who they really were. There was no bitterness in her tone, only sorrow. She regretted not being able to fully protect them. Her words were a mix of regret and fierce protectiveness. She knew the world they were growing into would demand they trade vulnerability for control, honesty for tradition. Diana hoped, above all, that her boys would remember what it meant to feel, to hurt, to love. But as William read on, the tone of her writing changed. Grief gave way to urgency. She began documenting something far more sinister, a covert campaign inside the palace to control, manipulate, and erase her. She named names: senior courtiers, advisors, people who had once smiled in public but plotted in private. Diana accused them of planting stories in tabloids, leaking false scandals, and using every tool available to discredit her. She believed it wasn't just personal, it was strategic. By tarnishing her image, they justified keeping her out of decisions, out of the spotlight, and ultimately, out of the family. She wrote about secret meetings, hidden codes, and trusted allies who helped her stay one step ahead. She kept evidence. Photos, notes, letters, things she feared would be destroyed if left in plain sight. The diary was her insurance policy. One passage, written days before her tragic death in Paris, chilled William to his core. She wrote that if anything happened to her, the world would be told it was an accident. But she didn't believe that. Not entirely. She felt watched. She felt hunted. She felt alone. Her words weren't paranoid. They were precise. She knew something was coming. Diana's fear was not just about her safety, but about her silence. She feared that her truth would never see the light, that her sons would be raised without knowing the full story of who their mother truly was. And perhaps the most heartbreaking line of all, "Who holds me when I cry?" In that moment, William saw not the icon, not the Princess of Wales, but the woman. A mother. A human being broken by an institution she tried so hard to navigate. The diary was her voice reaching out across time, begging not to be forgotten. As he read on, William found something even more difficult to accept. Diana had shared a truth with Harry that she had not shared with him. In one of her final entries, She spoke of preparing each of her sons differently. William was raised for the throne, for duty, for strength. Harry, she wrote, was raised for truth. She gave him secrets, warnings, and truths she thought the heir to the crown could never carry safely. This revelation left William shaken. The tension between the brothers, already fragile, deepened. When William confronted Harry, he admitted that their mother had shared things with him that he had never felt safe revealing. It wasn't betrayal, it was protection. Diana had hoped that at least one of her sons could live freely outside the palace walls. Her division of truth had unintended consequences, planting seeds of distrust between the two men she loved most. The diary also laid bare a palace cover-up so extensive it bordered on calculated cruelty. Diana had tracked the release of private information, the rewriting of official accounts, and a long list of character assassinations meant to frame her as unwell, unfit, and irrelevant. Many of those responsible were still in positions of power when William read her words. Advisors he trusted. Names he had heard around the dinner table. Faces he had once smiled at. Now, seen through his mother's eyes, they looked like ghosts of betrayal. Diana's entries about Prince Charles were among the most unexpected. Despite the pain, she expressed a quiet empathy for him. She acknowledged moments of kindness from him that she had once dismissed. Anonymous flowers. A gentle note. Small signs that he, too, was trapped. Her view of Charles evolved from resentment to reluctant understanding. In her words, he was not the villain. He was another victim of the system. That realization changed William. It forced him to question not just the past, but the man he wanted to be. As a husband, as a father, as a future king. Her reflections on the press were equally damning. Diana traced how headlines had been weaponized against her, often with the help of palace insiders. Journalists she trusted had turned on her. Friends had become informants. Private moments were sold to the highest bidder. It wasn't just betrayal, it was organized. She outlined meetings between officials and media editors, leaks timed to distract from royal scandals, and stories designed to shift blame and attention. Her anguish was not just personal, it was systemic. As William connected the dots, he saw the same patterns repeating in his own life. The pressure on Kate. The media frenzy around Harry and Meghan. The cycle of intrusion, defamation, and control. Diana's warnings were no longer history. They were prophecy. Near the end of the diary was an unfinished letter titled simply, "To my sons." It wasn't grand. It wasn't ceremonial. It was deeply human. Diana apologized for the pain her boys would endure. She wished she had more time. She urged them to stay soft, to stay loving, to stay honest. Her final words pleaded with them to never mistake emotion for weakness. The letter ended mid-sentence. The ink smudged, as if wiped by tears. That moment stayed with William. He didn't go public. He didn't release the diary. Instead, he quietly began cleaning house. Several longtime palace advisors quietly retired. Roles shifted. Voices previously sidelined were brought in. William formed a circle of trust, people who understood the weight of Diana's legacy. And then, for the first time in years, he reached out to Harry. No protocols, no scripts, just a letter. And in it, a copy of Diana's final words. The brothers, long separated by anger and pain, sat down and grieved together. Not as royals, not as symbols, but as sons. That conversation didn't fix everything, but it started something new. Today, William leads differently. There's a softness to him, a visible empathy, less ceremony, more sincerity. He speaks more openly. He listens more closely. The change isn't accidental. It's Diana's. Her voice, once hidden in a desk drawer, now echoes through her son's actions. She may have been silenced in life, but in death, she became his guide. Her diary is not just a collection of memories, it is a mandate, a quiet but powerful call to lead with heart, not tradition. To see people, not subjects. And to speak, even when silence is expected. This is not a tale of royal scandal. It is a human story, of love, of pain, of truth told too late. But not too late to matter. Diana's light, though dimmed by tragedy, still flickers in the quiet revolution happening behind palace walls. And through William, it grows stronger. If you felt the weight of the story and believe more people should know the truth behind the crown, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these untold stories alive, and we'll see you in the next one.